Well, first of all, I must say thanks to Amazon for actually having Global Citizen over here. It's a massive privilege. Global Citizen is a brand, most probably, which is getting known more and more, not just in the United States, but around the world. But the big thing, just being included with it's a privilege for me to be included with a group like this of people who really care about other people. That's you, that's why you're in the NGO space, that's why you sort of look forward and think of what you can do to help the lives of others. And obviously the Global Citizen mission is pretty much to do exactly that. The one thing I can apologize for to all of you right up front is Teresa and Nancy are a very hard act to follow. You're going to have to be patient with me. In the role of Global Citizen in the world today, and when I looked at this specific group, you'll notice I've got pieces of paper in my hand, and the reason why that's the case was I looked at the group this morning when I came in, and I realized that my presentation and my mindset had been deep in the weeds on technology issues which specifically affect myself and my organization and our way to be able to get through and help people in disparate communities all around the world. But I know you don't want to hear about such nitty-gritty things, so I reshaped it to sort of just help everybody to realize what Global Citizen does and what they're trying to do as we move into the future. So technology pretty much is like a medicinal drug. You take the right amount, you can get some very, very serious stuff done. If you take a little bit more or too much, you can sometimes get a bit high. If you overdose, the results can be rather disastrous. Fortunately, at Global Citizen, I inherited an extremely powerful group of two teams. First of all, my technology team, but then also the senior leadership team. You'll notice, according to the agenda, that the theme for this keynote is the worthy risk of innovation. And if you're working with the wrong leadership team, you're going to really struggle to get things done, especially in a technology space where technology is not cheap. And no matter where we are or who we are, we can't get away from the fact that money is needed, not just to do the good, but also to do the actual work and the background things, the foundational things that are needed to actually make ourselves effective. So my senior leadership team, and the board for that matter, appreciate the fact, first of all, that technology is extremely important to drive change. Secondly, that innovation is also important to drive change, and that they actually have to invest in technology. You would have noticed too, when you came in at the registration desk, that the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 were mentioned over there. And I thought that was really such a powerful thing, because so many people have so little, and so few people have everything. Many of these directly affect the goals and the work of global poverty or Global Citizen. We started off a few years back, we were originally the Global Poverty Project. But as people came on board and we became, and you can almost say pivoted, but that's an overused word, as we stretched and made ourselves and our presence globally felt, Global Citizen was really what we are. And I fully trust in my heart that all of you are global citizens. You might not be registered global citizens on our database, but in your hearts and in your minds, you are global citizens because you think about others. You see that the issues that we face in the world today are not natural and unfortunately are man-made. So if you look at the statement up here on my right, an extremely powerful statement. I'm just going to read it off again. It's like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made. And it can be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, it is an act of justice. And justice is going to feature very strongly on our New York City Festival that's opening up literally in a few weeks' time at Central Park. We've already been on the technology side through Action Journey 1, 2, 3, starting to mobilize people, getting everything done. It's a huge task. Our ask from a global citizen point of view is $260 billion every year until 2030 to solve global poverty. It is gigantic. We're halfway there over the last, but it's taken almost 30 years to get halfway there. We've only got 13 years left to do the other half, and it's a very, very tall ask. It basically comes down to about 0.7% of the GDP of most developed countries. Good-meaning organizations, people of goodwill, just don't have enough resources and money to make that type of thing worthwhile, which means that global poverty or global citizens have to approach and use governmental resources to get this type of work done. And over the years, we've managed to get governments to actually say, yes, we will help with this. But there's a big difference between saying, yes, we'll do something about this, and actually doing it. A lot keep their promises, and others don't keep their promises. And the point is, everybody has to keep their promise to make this a reality. And the only way we can help governments or hold them accountable is by giving people information to say, the government or these organizations promised X, Y, and Z. This is what they've done. This is what they haven't done. We as people, as global citizens, have to hold them accountable, and how can we motivate them to do what they actually promised to do? And that's where the whole infrastructure, the whole technology infrastructure of Global Citizen actually starts getting used. So we, as everybody in this room has to do, we have to innovate as well. And I thought it would be a good thing to help everybody to realize what I mean by innovation, because innovation is another word which has a wonderful sound as it rolls off the tongue, but what are you actually saying when you say innovate? So there was a 2012 Harvard Business Review article which spoke about breakthrough innovation, the type of people that cure cancer or go and do something else which is just absolutely magical. Very few people either have the ability to do that, or the money to do that, or the concentrated effort and resources to do that. Another type of innovation is looking at everybody else's work and taking those parts that can work and then magically putting those parts together, and that's called synthetic innovation. And that's where most probably all of us in this room, including us at Global Citizen, can make our biggest impact by using or utilizing synthetic innovation. We do it by using Amazon, AWS, SynGrid, Twilio, Iterable, Fivetrain, Segment, and many others from a resource technology point of view. They are all innovating and at the cutting edge of their specific field. As a global citizen, myself and the CTO, I can look at those different innovations and meld them together to actually get my work done. The organization that I represent, we can actually go and really do things. The other key part of that, which is really what makes this a beautiful venue and also a great occasion, is the fact that Teresa and others have actually had the mindset to see that if they bring like-minded people together, we can brainstorm, we can network, and we can actually innovate in that way as well, in a synthetic way, building our ideas together. I don't know if you know of the group called CTOs for Good. So I can tap into that organization as well. I am an advisory member on that as well, and people can tap into me, we can tap into each other, and we can see where things are going, not just in the United States and Europe, but all over the world. And that helps us to get a good handle on what we can do and, of course, what we can't do. Our big risk is understanding what people want to do and how they do it. We've literally got to try and keep up with the idiosyncrasies of people all the time. And as you know, people change. What worked for us maybe 3 months ago or a year ago just falls flat now. That's how fast technology is changing. That's also how fast, you can almost say, the idiosyncratic mindset of social behavior is being molded and changed also by not only technology, but people building new things, getting new information out there, getting new media types out there, getting people to react in different ways. The best way for everybody over here to understand what we try and accomplish too, not just from the activist point of view, in other words, motivating people and governments to be accountable for their promises when it comes to looking after global poverty, but how many people do you need to act on something before you get a reaction? We only know that we're really getting somewhere if the office, for instance, of a United States Senator, or Merkel's office, or Trudeau's office, if they actually phone us and say, hey guys, we got the message, you can back off a little bit now on this. Our switchboard is we're getting phone calls, we're getting tweeted, we're getting SMS'd, everybody's just saying, we need this, do it. We need this, do it. You need to be a global citizen. You need to make this change. You need to look at gender equality. You need to look at conflict. You need to look at education of women, the rights of children, all these things which are entrenched in our culture that break down the ability for people to rise above their poverty. Do the things that you need to fix it. So after many years of experience, we found out that at least we need 1 million super activists around the globe at any specific time. Now, if you think of that in terms almost like a marketing funnel, that 1 million activists or super activists are at the bottom of your funnel, which means that we need in the middle of our funnel, driving that, roughly 3 million users of the system, engaged where they're sort of thinking, these are powerful thoughts. I've got all these things, my friends have got all these things, there are other people that have nothing. What does it need at the top of that funnel? From all the calculations and the way we've seen social interaction, it's telling us that we need roughly 100 million people at the top of that funnel so that you can actually get only 3 million really regular, sincere, knowledgeable people working and then growing to be super activists right at the bottom. And when I say I use the word activist, you've got to keep in mind I come from a different country, so it always scares me when I use that word in this country because South Africa, for instance, and other countries, if you speak of an activist, you're thinking petrol bombs or you're thinking all sorts of ugly things. That's not what is meant by activists. A super activist is a person who just is really knowledgeable, knows what's going on, and is just saying, I'm going to do everything I can to motivate others, to help them to understand what we're going through and push that out. So, how on earth do we do that? How are we going to build that? You can only do that with technology. So even now, if you're in New York City, if you go into Times Square, those gigantic boards that sort of just change, those huge TV-like screens that sit on those buildings in Times Square, have actually got global citizen messages on it. If you care about women's rights, text this number. We suck that in. We can register these people. We can use push notification. We can start getting that whole groundswell going. We can get people to start reacting and realizing that they need to be involved. That's how we can do it. Beacons, push notification. And when you think of it from that point of view, you might think, well, some of this technology has been around for quite a while, but one thing that I find which really excites me about my role is I never cease to be surprised at what happens when people actually do what you ask them to do. You can send out, for instance, a push notification to, let's say, 50,000 or 100,000 people. You're sitting back in your, I don't have an office, we're an NGO, so we all like just sit around tables and we keep the costs down. But yeah, we are looking at the monitors, just in our normal day of work, and suddenly all the monitors start screaming. The database is pegged. It's not going down, but it's pretty much flatlining like an emergency room. And you think, we've load tested this? We've got Redis, we've got Memcache, we've got all this stuff, we've got load balancing. We should be able to cater to this type of thing. And then you realize that people do things differently. They all got their notification. Instead of saying, hey, I'll get to that later, pretty much 3/4 of them just said, man, this is important. Let me do something about this now. And just bang on the site. And then not just one action or 2 actions or 3 actions where you can cache and then you can just pull it off automatically. They just went onto everything that they could see and touch. We didn't go down, but it was very, very close. And that helped me also to just appreciate the type of technical stresses that all of you and myself go through all the time. To make technology work is an art. And that's why they've got you in these roles and looking after these types of organizations. But the thing is, we make such a difference. And we use technology to make that difference. If this man could see us now, he would be really happy about the fact that people work, their whole day at work is to make things better for others and not just thinking of ourselves, thinking about a cushy job maybe. I'm not trying to say that people who do earn lots of money or are in a cushy job are necessarily doing the wrong thing, but looking after and caring for other people is extremely important. I want to just touch on one other thing too. So we spoke about innovation from the point of view of breakthrough innovation and synthetic innovation, but this thought about the worthy risk of innovation. What is risk? People often think that risk is just something so terrible, you're totally risk averse. But the point is, risk is just a function of probability and impact. What's the probability that something's going to happen? And worst case, if it does happen, the impact. Is the impact going to kill you? If it doesn't, and it's worth a try, you do it anyway. That was something I read in a book many, many years ago, which actually said if you've got a number of decisions to make, don't try and think of the good things that come out of them. Think of the worst thing that can happen. And if you can cope with the worst thing that can happen, do it. That's pretty logical, isn't it? So that's the way we really want to react in the world as well. And we do that in solution design. We do that as global citizens in all aspects. And to try and get that sort of that innovation thinking and getting people to look at things from different viewpoints, I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you hire a multicultural team, and especially a multicultural dispersed team, you bring linguistics, social actions, philosophy to the table that you will never ever get by just having all your resources in one place. Of course, one of the advantages to me is I have close to follow the sun type of support in engineering, which is wonderful. But the point is, even more valuable to global citizens than that is the fact that you've just got this melting pot of social awareness and also the ability just to think differently. All of us want to think differently because the different approaches to problems is what gets our cognitive juices flowing, everything that makes us think, be different, act. Those are all wonderful things. Most probably the last thought that I want to mention, especially on risk, is what would you say if I mentioned or asked you to agree if failure is a huge risk? Who of you feels that that failure is a huge risk? Pretty good, yeah, because failure is a risk. But how about if I told you that failure is inevitable? And that's not just because of business, but even technologically or mathematically because of entropy. But if I told you that failure is absolutely inevitable, that would give you all a pause for thought. And the point is, it is inevitable, but there is a way to deal with it. Because you'd think that if that was the case, I would be dead or the organization would be dead already. But actually it's not. So global citizen, the way we handle inevitable failure is to make each step so fast and small that failure is almost invisible. Think about it. The smaller each step is, and the faster it is, failure becomes almost invisible. You can literally iterate, pivot, change, learn on the fly, and nobody points to, oh, you failed here, or this is a huge failure. It's just this machine that just keeps moving forward. It's almost like Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in the software universe. The momentum of the iteration cycle, the software cycle, if you know exactly what's going on with it, then you might not know where you are in the product roadmap, but if you know exactly where you are in the product roadmap, then you don't need to know what the iteration software cycle is. You're just getting stuff done. And that's what we all want to do. And that's what we do at Global Citizen. We get things done. We act as people. We act in a way that's just towards each other, respect for the technology world, respect for the way we think, and also respect for each other. This is a wonderful venue, a great opportunity to network, to build relationships with others who are facing similar technology questions and challenges. When I was at the back waiting for this, I heard the discussions on security and the types of things that affect us. We're all in the same boat. We, as global citizens, are trying to do good. Do you know how often either badly intentioned people are trying to either DOS us or just try and break our system, or others who don't realize that in many cases our tickets are free, think that they are software heroes because they are trying to crack our software or get into it to pick up some or scam some free tickets. What we do is we just publish a note that says, by the way, we saw the virus you attempted to plant in our system to try and get some tickets. The tickets are free. You know, if you've got the time and you love the exercise of matching wits with our department and Amazon that we're running in the cloud, then have at it. We want to make you happy, but you know, you can use it. You can use your time in a better way. So, is it worthy, this risk that we're taking every single day in Global Citizen, the risk of innovation? I absolutely believe that it is. It's the mission that makes it worthwhile. It's the fact that we're doing our best to follow sound engineering principles, good mathematical logic, and all the things that make technology work. That also gives us a good feeling. But the point is, at the moment in humankind's history, we're at the point where we're using some of the greatest technology ever to drive good for everybody in the world, to help others, to lift their living standards, to make them happy, to put a smile on their face. Can you think of anything better? There's nothing better. So let's all take those risks that we need to make, or that we need to take, to make the world a better place for others. Making the world a better place for others also makes it a better place for us. But it really is, that's what really makes life worth living. So a big thank you to Teresa and her team for putting this together. It's a great vehicle for sharing experiences and expertise, and I just hope that this grows and that we actually all benefit from this taking this very, very worthy risk.